Mental health affects us all, yet so many struggle in silence. Today, I'll give you the facts and I'll give you strategies and resources to get on with your life. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Natalie Tysdal Podcast. I'm Natalie, your host, a health journalist, and someone dedicated to helping you make sense of life's challenges and health concerns. Today, we're going to dive into a topic that touches every single one of us in some way, and that's mental health. We all know someone who struggles with their mental health, and sometimes it's someone that we're really close to, or maybe you're listening and this is you. First, I want to say it's not something to be ashamed of. In fact, it's more common and more talked about than ever before. But for some people, it's still hard. For some, it's unexplainable, hard to admit, and hard to know what to do next. And that's what makes it so challenging and why I want to dive into this today. I want you to know whether you're juggling the demands of work and family, maybe navigating relationships, or maybe simply trying to make time for yourself, mental health plays a crucial role in your overall well-being and your physical health. As we get started, I want to thank you for being here today, for supporting this podcast, and be sure that you subscribe so you're notified when I drop new episodes each and every week. And you'll find a link in the show notes to subscribe also to my weekly newsletter with more tips for living a healthy life. So let's get started today. Why do I want to talk about mental health? I mentioned just a second ago how prevalent it is for us to have mental health issues. Recent studies show that mental health struggles, they're affecting more people across all demographics. The National Institute of Mental Health reports that nearly 1 in 5 adults in the U.S., or 57.8 million people, live with some type of mental illness. And by mental illness, what do I mean? It can be many things. It can be depression. It can be anxiety, bipolar disorder, and a combination of all of these things. And for some people, it's situational. That's very common. These are real struggles that so many people deal with, yet there is a stigma surrounding mental health. That's why people don't talk about it. It's understandable that talking about what's going on in your mind can feel uncomfortable. It requires a certain amount of vulnerability and the fear of being judged or misunderstood. But it's important to remember that getting help for our mental health is just as crucial as taking care of a broken arm or stomach ache, the flu. We often hear about the importance of self-care, but when it comes to mental health, self-care goes beyond the bubble bath and the face masks, although I like those too. It means recognizing when we need help and having the courage to go and get that help to get better. So let's discuss the latest statistics and trends to really dial in on this. According to the American Psychological Association, 42% of adults say they feel more stressed today than they did 5 years ago, citing financial pressures, work demands, family responsibilities. Those are the top stressors. The World Health Organization highlights that mental health disorders are now the leading cause of disability worldwide, impacting 1 in 8 people globally. Young people remain very vulnerable. A recent CDC report found that 29% of high school students report persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness. This hits really close to home for me as I work with teenagers every day in the high school classroom teaching podcasting. We simply have to address this, and we have to find healthier ways to fight this for our generation. And then what I think is really important, and I talk about this a lot on the podcast, we have to get the help so that we can model how to get help for those growing up with mental health issues. And if you're a parent who has a young person in your house dealing with some type of mental health issue, I want you to feel seen today. And I want to emphasize the importance of getting them help before they're out on their own and you're not there to see the problem and support them. So it's important to me that we not only become very clear on the problem at hand, but we talk about it and we come up with actionable steps to tackle the issues. That's really important on this podcast. I'm going to give you ideas, strategies, and tips. And I also want to say this. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a counselor or a therapist, but I'm a journalist. And I want to inform you and give you the information that I have gathered from thousands of professionals worldwide. These tips can help, but if you're struggling, see a doctor, take action, don't wait, and let's talk about some immediate things that you can do that are proven to help, but don't let that step in the way if you need to get professional help. Okay, so let's get to those tips. Number 1, eat real food. A review of the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition analyzed multiple studies on diet and mental health, and they found that the diets rich in whole foods, omega-3s, also antioxidants, those were linked to lower rates of depression, while processed foods and higher sugar diets increase that risk. So what does this really mean? Let me boil it down for you. We hear eat healthy. What does it mean? For some people, it's really not as simple as just waking up one day and eating a whole bunch of new food. And I want to emphasize that little things do help. You have to start somewhere. That's my motto. But you can start with this. I've created a free download with a list of things you can go to the store right now and buy that will get you started. In my family, this is what we call the grocery store diet. It can mean a whole lot of different things. When you're prepared, when you actually go to the grocery store and you buy those things and they're in your refrigerator, you have them on hand, you are a huge step closer to success. You can get that download that I have made for you for free at natalietysdal.com/resources. Next, work on small habits like journaling, writing down your thoughts. 5 minutes a day can reduce stress and help you process those emotions that are trapped inside that you might not even realize are causing that depression. Might seem like just another thing to add to your to-do list, but studies show that short amount of journaling really helps us think through the emotions and decreases feelings of overwhelm. For some people, it's first thing in the morning. I try to do both. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I go and get my coffee. I sit down on this little couch that's right behind me, and I pull out my devotion for the day. I pull out my journal, and I just set my intentions for the day. I pray about it. I give a list of the things I want to accomplish and also how I'm feeling about it. At the end of the day, this is a really great thing to do before you go to bed, a great habit and a good one for your kids too. What did I do well today? What would I like to do better about today? And how am I feeling? We hear a lot about gratefulness journals, and this is a good thing to do as well. 3 things you're grateful for. What a terrific way to put your head on the pillow and go to sleep. To think about the things and to be really empowered by the things that you feel good about, that you're grateful for, because we all have things, even if it's just the breath in my lungs and the weather, which hasn't been great here. But I can find 3 things that I'm grateful for every day, and I know that you can too. Next, practice mindfulness. Carve out time for just short mindfulness exercises. Maybe it's a 10-minute walk. Maybe it's deep breathing. I can tell you what it is not, and that's scrolling on your phone. I'm guilty just like everyone else. You can't be mindful while you're taking your brain away from what matters to you and putting it on what everybody else cares about. So that 10-minute walk or deep breathing can go a long way. Build the connections. One of the most significant factors in mental health is your social network. So connections would be my next tip. A Harvard study found that people with strong social bonds are 50% more likely to report being happy and mentally well. Even if you don't feel like it, you just don't feel like being social, which is what happened to a lot of us when we started working from home or during the pandemic, when it really just became about our own house and what was happening within it. Reach out to someone, a friend, a family member, even a coworker. Because building those connections, caring about other people and their feelings, that helps us in turn feel supported, and it helps us feel seen. Next, focus on your physical health because, again, studies, I'm going to bring them to you every week to prove these things. Studies show, and this one's from the Mayo Clinic, it shows that exercise reduces the symptoms of anxiety and depression by 30%. Maybe it's yoga, maybe it's a dance class. Maybe it's just walking outside of your front door, a quick lap around the block. Moving your body is essential. And when you don't feel like doing it, that's usually when you need it the most. Make it a 5-minute walk because it really can change your brain and change what's happening in that depressed feeling that you have. Of course, getting good sleep, getting 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep, that's not a luxury, everybody. It's a necessity for mental clarity and for emotional balance. I have recorded so many episodes on the importance of sleep and ways to improve your sleep. The experts that I have talked to over my 30-year journalism career all say that sleep is essential to your health, your physical health, your mental health, every single thing about it. Sleep is when our bodies reset. It's actually when our brains clean themselves. You can just imagine it. It's cleaning up. I tell my kids when they say, I had a bad dream, and I say, that's your brain cleaning. It's okay because you are okay, but know that the dreaming, the deep sleep, all of that is what your body needs to be well. I'm going to pull some episodes and I'll put them in the show notes if you struggle with sleep, because there's very specific things that you can do, some vitamins you can take, some practices that you can incorporate into your life if you need and you struggle with sleep. So look for those in the show notes. Next, I would say seek professional help. Therapy is no longer taboo. It is a tool for growth. Platforms like BetterHelp, Talkspace, there are so many out there. If you don't have someone that you can go to in your town or that you can see in person, there are ways that you can do this online that make mental health support accessible from the comfort of your home. In fact, the APA reports that 60% of therapy patients say virtual sessions are just as effective as in-person ones. And I would say do it if you haven't done it and you think you need it. I hope with all of this, you can start by giving yourself some grace. Acknowledge that you're doing the best you can with what you have, and that's good enough. Okay, to my Better in 3 this week, 3 things you can do to start feeling better today and to better yourself. So we talked about mental health, but let's talk about some other things. First, hydrate strategically. What do I mean by that? Drink a glass of water first thing in the morning before the coffee. It's one that I have to make myself do. And before your meals, that's going to help you stay hydrated and support your digestion. So first thing in the morning, before every meal, have 8 ounces of water. I do it before bed. And yeah, it does wake me up sometimes in the middle of the night, but I like to have that real hydration strategically right before I go to sleep. Next, stretch daily. Incorporate a series of stretches into your routine to improve flexibility and reduce some tension. For me, it's right before bed. 2 or 3 minutes. Just touch your toes, stretch your body. For some people, this is first thing in the morning. Both, even better. Finally, my third thing, walk after a meal. Take a short walk after each meal. It's going to help your digestion and it's going to stabilize your blood sugar levels. And a question I want to leave you with today. What's one thing you can do today to prioritize your mental health? Of all of the things I've given you, I hope you can incorporate them, but what's one thing you can do right now, today? Maybe it's call a friend. Maybe it's take that walk. Maybe it's booking that therapy session that you've been thinking about or downloading my mood boosting foods list. I hope that you can do one of those things today. If this episode has resonated with you, please share it with someone you think might need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. For more resources, check out my blog at natalietysdal.com. Remember, your mental health matters. Small, intentional changes can lead to big transformations. You're not alone. Taking the first step toward better health and better mental health is one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself and for your loved ones. Thanks for listening today. See you back here next week. Thank you for joining the Natalie Tysdal Podcast. You can follow along on Instagram and at natalietysdal.com. Subscribe to the show to catch every new episode and leave a review so I can continue to bring you fresh content. See you next week.